guys, what's up? It's 8Byte Brian, and I'm back once again for another 8Byte Podcast, so welcome back on in. Sorry about the podcast not being up for June. My computer decided to go full-on retard Ermagerd and just deleted all of my files, well, at least all of my podcast files, thank God, not all of my files. I just started backing everything up, so preparing for when my 6-year-old computer finally decides to crap out on me. But anyway, welcome back again for the 8Byte Podcast. As I always say, this isn't your father's podcast. And better not be, because I guess that'd be pretty damn weird, wouldn't it? So I got a lot to go over this month. And we're going to be talking about some Mighty Number 9. Going to be talking about Zelda Breath of the Wild. And we're going to go into some NX, because why not? So let's delve right into it, and we'll hit our first topic, and maybe have some time for some Q&A, as some of you guys sent me some questions, so cool. Thanks for interacting with me here on the podcast for our second episode, and let's go right into it. Going to be talking about Mighty Number 9. So, Mighty Number 9, as everybody knows, finally got released. Like, it felt like it took, 9,000 years? I mean, maybe that's why they call it Mighty Number 9, because, that's how many times you have to, make the sign of the cross and, do 9,000 Hail Marys before this fucking game got released. So, it got released, and unfortunately, it was really, really, really underwhelming. The team at Concepts, which is the development team behind Mighty Number 9, really promised a lot when they started up their Kickstarter campaign, and they showed some really great concept art where it's like, wow, this looks like kind of a modified Mega Man 10 or Mega Man X. The graphics were really shiny. Of course, it's not going to be the same Mega Man because of Capcom licensing and everything, so they couldn't just give you a Mega Man game. But since Capcom basically left this franchise on the cutting room floor, it was really cool that somebody decided to pick it up and say, hey, if they're not going to make a new, Mega Man game, let's go ahead and do something that's at least close to a Mega Man game that gives you the same feel, the same experience, and, hopefully is kind of like the vaccine for the foaming at the mouth, rabies, Mega Man fans that are, all been waiting for something to play for, 9, 10 plus years since, Capcom put something out. Ironically enough, the last thing that came out, I believe, was there was a couple of PS2 games that that came out for Mega Man, maybe a DS, but other than that, not much at all. But so looking at the finished project, I haven't actually been able to get my hands on a copy of Mighty Number 9. But I saw footage from, what they promised at E3. I saw the concept art, and I've seen gameplay online. And it just really... It looks sad. It just really looks sad. I mean, this, ironically enough, actually looks like a really early or late PS1 or early PS2 game. The 3D graphics are just that bad. It's just not what you'd expect for a game coming out in 2016. Sure, we all love our retro games. You want them to have that retro look and feel. But when you're promising a game that's going to, have really good, anamorphic shadowing, and rendering, and then you produce something that looks, I don't know, like Gex or something, or just something terrible like TAC. It actually came out on the original Xbox, but still same generation as what PS2 would have been. It's ridiculous. I mean, this game, originally got promised, I believe, in 2014, late 2013, and it's been, practically 3 years that it's been in development, getting pushed back, and it's just ridiculous that it looks... what happened? It's what were you doing for all that time? It's the stages and the levels just look uninspired. They look boring. You have some parking cone enemies, and like these little construction enemies. Some of the bosses are creative. I'll give it that. There's like this plane guy in the air stage that kind of looks like a GoBot or something, like with his wings, and it looks like a threatening, military jet, and that looks pretty cool. I'll give that credit where it's due. But overall, I mean, come on. I mean, for as much as this game raised in funding, and for how many people were just, really holding their breath. And, I feel bad, especially for the people that put their money into it and backed it. And, you're in it for the long haul at that point. You're just like, where's my game? Where's my game? Where's my game? Like, okay, hey, they pushed it back again. That's great. I'm not worried. I'm totally behind the team. They're just making it better. They're working out kinks. They're working out bugs. If they were, I don't know what they were working out, because it looks like such an unpolished product that it's like you wouldn't be able to convince me if I had backed the game and be like, what were you working out? This game still looks unfinished, basically. And you even have, just a lot of really bad cutscenes. Like, I don't remember the name of the one guy, but there's like this fat like doctor, and it's kind of like basically like Dr. Light, but he's not Dr. Light. I think his name's like Dr. Garda or Barda, something like that. I honestly don't remember. Please forgive me. I lost some of my script here too when my computer crashed up. It seems like I'm fumbling a little bit. I'm trying to go as best as I can from memory. But yeah, it's just, it looks really childish, really cheesy. I mean, Mega Man was always kind of cheesy, and some of the X series ones were a little kiddie, I guess, but they were never this bad. They were never that hold your hand and walk you along, like super cheesy, like show you everything to do. Like the point of Mega Man games, like even with Mega Man 1, as hard as that game is, you know, anybody can pick up and play it. You might not be good at it, you might suck at it, but it's easy to understand. That's partially just because of NES having, the great interface of a D-pad and a two-button system. Of course, other systems, evolved past that, 6, 9, 12 buttons, whatever, but still, just the basic mechanic of the game of just jump, shoot, slide, charger, charger, Mega Buster, things like that. And I just think that, the character who's supposed to be this I don't know what his name is. I don't even really remember. Um, he doesn't really look like a Mega Man character. The whole game just really feels like a bad clone or a ripoff of a good original series. Um, so, it just seems like if you're going to take that much time in developing it, I almost think that Concepts has a lot to be accounted for to their backers. They need to really show this is what we did, because I don't know how much you maybe you put into this, $60, $100. Maybe some people put in considerably more than that. And if what you feel like you got is a unpolished, half-finished game, then you need to be accountable for that. And I think that's a big problem, with projects, whether it's, the Coleco Chameleon or other games that are started on Indiego and Kickstarter, that, there's very loose regulations about that. Sure, if it doesn't get funded, the backers get their money back. But what if it does get funded? That can be a bigger problem in and of itself, because the guys that, come up with concepts, and sure, they have to generate prototypes and they have to have a checklist of this is what we plan to do with the game. A, B, and C is going to happen. This is what's going to happen. You have to fulfill those requirements to your backers, or basically you're committing fraud. But beyond that, if your only requirements are like, okay, well, we're going to develop the game, we're going to include a music CD, there's going to be artwork, this is what it's going to be, blah blah blah. Once you fulfill those basic requirements, and if your goal is say, $50,000, 200,000, whatever your goal is, once you hit that, you only need to really be accountable for the amount that you have allocated, in your basically like a dossier or like an itinerary, saying of what you're going to do. Beyond that, who is to say, hey, what are you doing with the other, $150,000 that you got on Indiegogo when you are showing here it only costs $50,000 to make and develop this game? So, my main concern with Mighty Number Nine is that, again, just like with the Calico Chameleon, and not that I'm gonna pick on the Calico Chameleon, this month because who cares? Um, my point is for people who are choosing to get involved in the Indiegogo, the Patreon, the Kickstarter projects, be careful. There needs to be more protection for the consumer. People are putting their hard-earned money into these projects, and it's just not fair to see that they're not getting what they feel is the fair equivalent of what they're promised, um, in the final product. So, all in all, I think it's a shame. I think it's a huge letdown to people who are Capcom and Mega Man fans trying to get something that is a supplement, if you will, for the Mega Man series to kind of stop the Mega Man fits of like, oh man, I can play something that feels like the original, and but just wasn't at all anything like that. So you know, it really makes me nervous. The next time I see another campaign online, if there's ever something I would want to back, like I don't know, I mean, this wouldn't be a Kickstarter campaign, but say they do like Chrono Trigger HD, like they did the Wind Waker, like that'd be freaking awesome. Like personally, I would probably support that. If somebody decided to do like Power Stone 3, because the last Power Stone that got released was on the PSP. I love that series. It's an awesome series. Stuff like that, I might back. I mean, I don't have a lot of money, but if it's a cool enough game, I'd be like, okay, I'm down. Um, and that's my concern. So that's my biggest point with going over this is just that I feel, Mighty Number Nine is another shining example of just companies not fulfilling on their promises, and buyer beware. Definitely be careful, guys out there. So that's just trying to look out for the consumer. Be careful with what you back and do your research. All right, so let's talk Zelda. So E3 came and went, and it really kind of passed along with pretty much nobody batting an eye. But one thing did get people excited and got everybody up in arms, and that was the announcement and the first real gameplay footage and trailers that we can finally say that we've had of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I gotta say, from what I've seen online, from what was showed, the game looks absolutely amazing. Um, and this is really really exciting because there's few five-letter words in the gaming library like Zelda that can set gamers in an all-out frenzy. Um, we really haven't seen a truly new Zelda since Skyward Sword on the Wii. I really don't count A Link Between Worlds because only maybe 20% of that max was actually uh, new dungeons, new story, new content. So while that was a really good game, which honestly I haven't even got to play yet because I don't own a 3DS, and it looks friggin' amazing. I'm a huge fan of A Link to the Past, so like that's a kick-ass game. It's still not really a truly new Zelda. We see a lot of remakes pushing the uh, Wii U along on life support, with the Wind Waker, of course, being bundled with the Wii U, with the Twilight Princess coming out. I'm honestly surprised they didn't do anything with Majora's Mask, and that's a shame because just like Link 2, and maybe even some of the Oracle of Seasons games, that's like one of the Zeldas that is just forgotten about. It's, and it's a good game, and everybody's like, oh, I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's too hard. Shut up. It's Zelda. It's supposed to be hard. Like, it's supposed to be challenging. It's not supposed to be something you just sit down and are like, oh, that was easy. Go play Color a Dinosaur. Go play one of the Sesame Street games. Or just use a Game Genie with whatever game that you're playing if you really want, like, that lackluster of a challenge. Like, it's supposed to be difficult. But anyway, enough of my little rant. Back to the main topic at hand, Breath of the Wild. So the game opens up to where you hear a female voice in the background saying, "Open your eyes." And you do, you really, really do. The game opens up and you see this meadow, and it really showcases the powerhouse engine of the Wii U, which I'm guessing is the engine that's driving it. I don't know if those were actual, if that was running on an NX chipset. I don't know if I can call it a chipset because the NX is going to actually have physical media, but I don't know if that's the engine actually running it. But regardless, you know, it looked it looked beautiful. I mean, you could see every individual blade of grass blowing in the wind, or the never-ending shifting sand dunes in the desert. It's just amazing. Um, right off the bat, I haven't been this visually impressed by a Zelda title since the Ocarina of Time. And this instantly made me feel like a whole new living, breathing world had been created again. And just, waiting for me to explore. And a lot of new aspects have been added to this new to this new to this new Zelda. Where Link. I don't even know if they're actually calling him Link in this one because with the different timeline of Zelda, there's actually like a shitload of different Links and stuff like that. So there's like the original Link is apparently dead. And that would be the one from Ocarina of Time, and technically the first in the series is actually the most modern out of it or whatever. The timeline's so convoluted, so feel free to blast me in the comments, but I doubt you'll be able to make much sense of it either. Um, but anyway, there's skills that you need to learn, like cooking. You see stealth-based skills where Link is, sneaking around some of the moblins, and he shoots an arrow or throws a rock into a tree, and they get like distracted, and then he sneaks up on them and attacks them, and they run off. Or you see him pushing a big boulder down a hill, and it flattens some guys. Um, and you see like where Link is taking like a stick and like he burns like a plane of like a field of grass, which I guess is for an effect as escape or an attack. You see him mounting a horse, so I guess you're gonna have a chance. You're exploring the world, to not so much be restricted to Epona like you would have before, but you can actually find your own horse and tame it and stuff like that. Um, and you see Link hunting as well, which is interesting. So you're not just finding the red potion or catching a fairy in a bottle. Like if you want to restore your health, I'm sure that's going to be a part of it too. But if you want to restore your health, the main part of it is going to be that Link does need to sit down for the night and make up camp and eat, just like anybody in the real world. Like you can't just drink some magic juice and like that makes your health feel better. So a lot of people are kind of calling this the Legend of Skyrim for a lot of these reasons, because it really Zelda's finally grown up in this installment. There's crafting, because your weapons will break down and wear down over time. What I thought was really interesting is that if you look at the cover art on the front, there's actually the Master Sword is rusted. So I think that's really interesting. Like, I mean, can that break on you? I mean, I've never even seen an installment where the Master Sword, is degraded in any way. It's supposed to be, an indestructible sword. So that's kind of neat. There's also other interesting mechanics that they put in the game, like you see Link on this little hang glider that he uses above his head and flies above the trees. And there's also 100 shrines put in the game to where they're like side quests. You don't have to follow the game in any set order. You can go and explore, and there's new items. There's enemies that you can kill in there for extra XP and different storylines. Um, so actually, another interesting thing about the game is you can actually beat the game within like 20 minutes, like right from the beginning of the game. You can actually head right to the final dungeon and fight Ganon and beat the game. You can beat the dungeons in any order, just like you could in the first Legend of Zelda, which is interesting because Miyamoto, always said that was what he wanted players to feel. He wanted them to feel freedom and exploration. Um, because that was the sensation he got outside of his house when he was a child. Um, and I think that that's really cool. I think that that's really cool that does that. Um, so after hearing all of that, Zelda sounds great, right? It sounds like we finally got the Zelda that we've all been waiting for. Ocarina finally grew up, and we're all ready to play The Legend of Skyrim. But you might want to hang on just a minute. You might want to hold off on rushing that green tunic to the dry cleaners just yet. And you might want to be asking me why. Like everything sounds amazing. Why? Well, everything that I saw from the trailer looked amazing and interesting. It left me wondering. Yes, it looks like a Zelda game, but will it play like one? Will the lack of having direction in the story be a detriment and take the wind out of our former Wind Waker sails? For as much as Zelda has been about exploration and new items and skills, it has always been more about the story. From the first time we popped in that gold cart and were told, it's dangerous to go alone, take this, we wondered why. Who was that old guy? Where am I? Where did this sword come from? What is so dangerous? And we found out. From the first attacking band of moblins to Pole's voices, bats, and hydras, we found out little by little the story that would unfold until we heard of Ganon. And after we finally bombed every wall and burned every tree, until we finally put that last silver arrow through Ganon's heart, we realized we had just finished something epic. Zelda was an experience like nothing ever seen before. It was a book, a movie, a fantasy adventure, Dungeons and Dragons, The Lord of the Rings, a J.R. Tolkien novel, all wrapped into one. It was the first time that everything came together and we actually controlled the hero and we controlled his destiny. We were really part of all those elements that we loved in a game and were really part of the adventure. Now, over the years, Link would evolve, sometimes good, sometimes bad, and sometimes just confusing. We saw a lot of different experiences and game mechanics get evolved into games. From Skyward Sword, we're using motion controls to the top-down 2D view with A Link to the Past, which turned out to work really well. Link 2, where you're side-scrolling and suddenly Link is basically Mario. So there was a lot of new things that were tried, and some of them worked, and like Skyward Sword, some of them didn't. So my major concern is that while Breath of the Wild looks visually amazing, it looks great. You see Link mainly doing lots of new things. And that kind of concerns me because it makes me wonder, well, where is the story behind this? Where is the story driving you, to use that little hang glider, to explore those shrines? Like, the shrines make me kind of concerned because it's like, well, is the story so lacking you need to put in all these side quests to fill in from the plot if there's nothing pushing you to get that next item? When you're playing any other Zelda game, there was a reason you wanted to go to the water dungeon. You wanted to find the hook shot, or whatever it was, because you couldn't do it next. You would be walking along a part of the game and there'd be a bridge that you couldn't get across, and you're like, well, what do I need for that? So after you explored all that you could and bombed different walls and different caves, you realized, okay, I need to go to that next dungeon. It pushes you along. And I'm concerned that this Zelda isn't going to do it. I just see Link doing a lot of silly stuff. It kind of reminds me of like Link's crossbow training. So I'm just a little afraid that they used a lot of gimmicky mechanics in the game, and I hope that's not going to be a detriment to the to this new installment of Zelda. So I hope I'm wrong, but I have to say I'm definitely a little hesitant about that. So let's hope that the addition of these new game mechanics don't take the breath out of the Breath of the Wild. All right, so real quickly, let's touch on some NX. And at E3, Nintendo announced that the NX would have a March 2017 release, and they also announced something very interesting, that the NX is still going to use physical media, which actually got a lot of old school gamers really excited. Businesses like GameStop, I'm sure we're happy to hear that news, knowing that they still have a profitable uh, business model. Because the pre-owned is the heart and soul of their business, and there's no point of them selling a new Nintendo NX console if they're just basically eating the cost on that. So the pre-owned is where all their bread and butter comes from. Now, while this is great news, it is a little concerning because Nintendo did announce that the NX is not going to be backwards compatible. And this is the first time that I've ever seen this with a Nintendo product. With the with the GameCube, being able to play your Game Boy Advance games with the little add-on that you would put on the bottom of it. The Wii U being able to play game. I'm sorry, the Wii being able to play GameCube. The Wii U also being able to emulate and run that. It kind of really sucks that they're deciding to go away from being backwards compatible, but that's because I believe that they're trying to make the NX more streamlined. And ironically enough, I think it's because it's going to be more about streaming. You're going to see physical media, but I think it's going to be more along the lines of like 3DS carts, because I just see from what they're saying that they're trying to make the NX a console that's both portable and a home console. So it kind of reminds me of like the Ouya, where like you had that console, you could basically fit it in your pocket, plug one end into an outlet, plug the USB into your TV, hook up Bluetooth, have Wi-Fi, download your games or save them onto like a Raspberry Pi type hard drive, and it would emulate, everything from Sega Genesis to NES, and you could, also play the Ouya, 3D first-person shooter games, sports games that they had on there. And it didn't really do too well. It just didn't catch on because the support for that was really poor. But I think the concept is the same as what we're going to see for the NX. I think you're going to see the NX is going to be very streaming compatible. And what I see from that is that the NX is probably going to be a handheld system and a console in one. I really think that they're going to try to evolve to the next stage here, to where you're going to see that the NX is actually going to be a new type of portable. I think that they're going to move away from like the 2DS and the 3DS and just try to merge it all together. Or they're just going to keep the carts the same, and then you can interchange them between your 2DS and 3DS and on your NX. I think that'd be the smartest idea. Um, but I really think that the Nintendo NX is a crossroads console. This is the console really to end all consoles. Hopefully it doesn't, but I think with the release of the Nintendo NX, we're going to really see how the gaming industry is going to move forward from this point. You see, like with PS4 and Xbox One, they tried to push along a gaming community that wasn't ready to take on an all new digital world. We all screamed out, we still want to hold on to our physical media, because if we're paying $60 for something, you want something physical on your hand that's a representation of that money that you just handed across the counter. So physical media is still strong for now. And I think Nintendo is still just gently nudging, gamers, like, well, we're not taking it away yet, but it is going away soon. Um, so I think that the step that they decide to go in is going to be really what shows where the industry's going. Like you had like with the Wii, like when the Wii came out, motion controls. Nintendo set the bar. Whether you liked the Wii, whether you hated it, you have to admit that they set the bar. Everyone else followed after that. The PlayStation 3, had the Move wands. The Xbox 360 came out with the Kinect. So Nintendo, while they don't always continue to lead the pack, um, they're innovators. If you can say nothing else about them, Nintendo has always been a company built on creativity, imagination, and innovation. So the direction that they choose to take with this new console, it's really going to be, more for other companies to dip their toes into the water, test the temperature, and see, okay, well, is what Nintendo's doing with this new console working for them? And, should we adapt our consoles to their model and see if the mainstream accepts it or not? So, I think that the NX is going to be really, really interesting, and I think that it's going to really show, the way that games are going to go. I mean, if it maybe has, if there's a way to support and a reason for physical-based media to still exist, then I'm fully behind it. I'm an old school gamer. I love my carts, everything like that. But I have a PS3. I never bothered to get a PS4. Um, I have a Wii. Didn't get the Wii U. I'm just broke. Honestly, I have nothing against the systems, but I have plenty of digital downloads that I got off there from the PlayStation Store, from the Wii Shop, or from when I had Xbox Live, on my 360. And I have nothing against using digital content. I have a Steam account. There you go. Not that old fashioned, right? um, but so I digital content is definitely a way of the future, as long as people are getting a decent value for that, and you're not ripping off customers by giving them incomplete games. So I see, as long as there is a need for physical media to exist, whether it's just cost, that it's easier for companies to produce discs, than to host servers, for games, then digital media should exist. But I feel that if there no longer is a need for it, if those servers are so 100% secure and hack proof that you never have to worry about it, there's a fail safe, for if you lose your data on whatever console you have, that you can get that game right back, that's good. But my concern with the streaming is that, you know, there's no reason to charge $60 for a game if you're not getting anything. If all you're getting is a digital file. So again, let's just wait. Let's see what Nintendo produces in little over a year, and hopefully it'll be a good ride for everybody. All right, and real quickly, I want to touch on Sonic. Sonic just recently celebrated his 25th birthday, and I think it's fantastic. Even though it's a shame that the Sega Corporation, at least in their San Diego location, I believe, shut down. We've seen Sega fall through the wayside, and we've seen them be licensed out to so many different companies, putting out different little mini clones where all their games are preloaded on them and handhelds and stuff, and even, doing crossovers with Mario and Nintendo. And I just want to talk more about, I guess, Sonic, and how I feel that it relates to me, and how I grew up with Sonic. And, you guys, hey, leave your comments down below. Let me know how Sonic was as an experience growing up for you. As a kid, I saw Sonic growing up as kind of like the edgy, badass video game character. He was kind of like telling kids, like, hey, man, you don't want to play around with mushrooms and princesses anymore. It's like, you want to hang out with the cool kids. You want to hang out with Sonic. He's got the high tops. He's got the spiky hair. He uses slang. He doesn't take crap from anyone, rebels against authority, and that's kind of how I viewed Sonic growing up. I was like, oh, it's like cool. This is a really neat little fun character, and he kind of evolved right in tune with the attitude of the '90s, I think. And I of course was a Nintendo kid growing up. I didn't have an NES first. I had a Super Nintendo. Was my second console. Atari 800 XL was the first one I had. But so I kind of saw Sonic from a third person perspective. I only really saw Sonic like when I went over to my friend. You know, when I would go over to my friend's house, and one of them would have a Genesis and would be playing it, or I'd go in Toys R Us or KB, and I'd see Sonic zipping around on the rails and the pinball machine. I was like, wow, this is nuts. I was like, yeah, you know, for the time, I believe blast processing was real. You look at that, and you're like, look at Mario, and you're like, yeah, of course blast processing is real. Look at how fast Sonic's going. That's nuts. You almost had a seizure looking at the screen. Um, so, the Sonic games were cool. And I remember seeing Sonic and Knuckles. And man, like when they made that into like a 32-bit world, which really wasn't, but it was rendered to look 32-bit. Like that was amazing. Like jumping on the mushrooms and stuff, really cool. And Tails was neat too. But overall, Sonic never really appealed to me. Like I liked it and it was fun, but the games were just exactly the same. They were photocopies of each other. It's just like, oh, this time it's Tails, this time it's Knuckles, this time, uh, Doctor Eggman or whatever is in a friggin' boat, or he's in a helicopter, or he's in a robot, or he's doing some other nonsense. Like it's how many machines can you put the fat bastard into? So it wasn't anything different. And I guess you could say that about like Mega Man and stuff too, but at least, 99% of the time you were fighting a different end boss and the stages were different. With Sonic, yeah, they were kind of, but it was always, Green Hill Zone, Industrial Zone, Water Zone, Lava Zone. And like it never changed. Like there was nothing else new about it. And then, you saw some of those really bad Sonics with like Sonic 3D, where it's a 2D overhead view, but he's still trying to do the same forward like motion and jumping around, and it's nauseating. Like my God, do not play that game. Like avoid that at all costs. If you play that for like an hour, like you'll throw up. Like it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible game. Um, then you had games like Sonic and the Black Knight, like Sonic, what's that? Sonic Racing Transformed and stuff like that. And the Sonic Spinball, that's a great game. I like that. But I see Sonic as a character that never evolved with the times. He has a fond place in my heart, but there's a reason he got, pimped out to Nintendo and other franchises, and they just didn't evolve him. It was always he's just spinning. He's just spinning. Shadow was the closest thing I ever saw that got evolved in the Sonic. So I think that if they'd have taken Sonic in a more progressive direction, maybe kind of like Mario, or maybe a mix of like Link or other characters, Jack and Dexter, and given them weapons and a better health meter than just rings that if you get hit once, they all go flying everywhere. And you have to scurry all around trying to capture them, and then basically you're dead if you miss one. Like we all had that moment at the end boss where you're down to one ring and you're trying to grab that one ring as it bounces off screen, and you're like, great, now I'm fucked. um, so I think that there was never a great story behind Sonic, and he just didn't evolve enough. So I love Sonic to this day. I love the character. I think the games are still fun. They're timeless. They're classics. But it's a shame that he just never evolved well with the times, like so many other platforming characters. Like Bonk. Uh, dare I say it, Dizzy? But no, really, who knows about Dizzy? Bubsy, Awesome Possum, even Crash Bandicoot, who hung on by like a thread. But you have to make a relatable character that can evolve with the times, and I guess Mario did it, and Sonic didn't, because in the end of the day, Mario's a person, and you can go in a lot more different avenues with a person than you can with just weird kind of gimmicky corporate byproduct like animals. It's just like he's just like a corporate crappy logo of Sega at the end of the day, and I think it's shown through. So whether you love Sonic or whether you hate him, Happy belated birthday, my blue friend. All right, real quickly, let's talk about Pokemon Go for a second. Like, holy crap, what an unbelievable phenomenon this has turned into. This is with the company Niantic, I believe, is the main company producing this. Even though it's still registered, by Nintendo and the Pokemon Trading Card Company, this is basically Nintendo just giving away a game for free. This is like if you just went in your local game store and they're like, "Here, man, have Pokemon Ruby on the house for us free," and that's basically what they did, and it's friggin' awesome. Granted, on my phone, the AR camera gyroscope thingy doesn't work, so I don't get the fun of like seeing a Pokemon pop up, on my neighbor's roof or something, which kind of sucks. But whatever. I don't really play it that much anyway, just when I'm on my break or whatever. Um, but it's really cool. This is the next evolution of what the 3DS promised and the PS Vita promised with augmented reality, with the AR cards, and it's just amazing. Like this is absolutely amazing to see the world of Pokemon as it's truly meant to be brought out into the real world. And it's so good because it gets kids and adults alike, out of the house exercising. So I'm sure parents love this. They're like, hey, go walk 10 miles and find Pikachu or whatever, and they can, relax and turn on Netflix and like, thank God the kids are finally out of the house. Um, but it's really cool. I like the leveling system. I like how if you're near water or near like a forest or something, you can find different Pokemon. I like how different weather effects can affect it. Like if there's a lightning storm, you have a higher chance of finding electric type Pokemon. Um, the gym battles are neat, but the thing I don't really like about that is that you have to be so close in order to battle. And I get they want you to get out and go and walk, but come on. I mean, you know, if there's, adults or young kids or college kids that are playing this and you just got done work, why, if you can see it to click on the battle, on the gym, why can't you just do it from your house, just via Wi-Fi? Like, that's a much better solution. Um, I also think that another big problem is the fact that Pokemon Go relies a lot on coins, and a lot of these free-to-play apps and games, they're free to an extent, and then you gotta you gotta buy the lures and you gotta buy the incense, and that's a pain in the ass because you're constantly just finding Pidgeys, you're constantly just finding Rattatas, and it's like, okay, I need 50 more Psyducks. I personally love Psyduck; he's one of my favorite Pokemon. Um, to level him up and evolve him. But it's like you're not finding him. Like, it takes you friggin' forever. And so the incense and the lures make that easier and make more of them like come to your area or more Pokemon in general. And but you can't earn those at the Pokestops. And Pokestops are places like historical monuments, churches, things like that. And you go by there and you spin a little icon, and you can either get more Pokeballs or little raspberries, which if you have a Pokemon that doesn't want to get captured, makes it easier for you to capture the Pokemon on your next attempt. Medicine to heal your Pokemon, revive potions and things like that. But the incense and the lures, that's stuff that you have to pay for. And I really wish that they would just keep this game like totally free. Like, don't screw up a good thing. You have so many people having fun seeing their video game or their cartoon come into the real world, come into real life. I don't like them putting in elements of where, other people have an advantage because they're spending money and you're not. So I think that's a bad thing. Of course, Nintendo has to make money. I mean, they're already making watches that you can wear and walk around, and you can evolve your Pokemon just by walking, which is insane. Like, why do you need to spend that much money for accessories for a free to play game? Just enjoy the game. But overall, I think the Pokemon Go is a great app. I mean, it's getting people out. It's cool, to find the Pokemon, even if you're not a big fan of it. Even if, like, you're like me. I was like 18, 19 when it came out. And, I'll admit it, I watched the show. Not every season, but, the biggest thing that I liked about it was Team Rocket. Team Rocket was awesome. Jesse, James, Meowth, Wobbuffet, Arbok, Coughing, They're hilarious. They're just funny, goofy, the bad guy Pokemon. And, I love them. And I love Psyduck because he's just dumb and silly. So I love the old G1 Pokemon. Beyond that, I don't know every friggin' Pokemon. I don't know. I didn't know before the Eevee evolved into, Flareon and Vaporeon. I don't even know how to pronounce that. you know. Um, but I think for young and old alike, I think it's a really cool app, and I think it's really maybe showing a new direction for Nintendo and a new direction for apps and games just in general. So I think that's just an amazing phenomenon. I just cannot believe how this has caught on. And I also think that it's a little crazy too, because with the phenomenon, you've had people where there's been people like someone in Montana found a dead body floating in a river when they're just out playing the game, and like people are driving, like in traffic. Like I guess it's okay if you stop at a red light and you're like, oh, I'm at a Pokestop. Like that's cool. Be safe. Use common sense. But like people are like, like driving and like I gotta get this Vino Nat or whatever, and it's like, whoa, like there's people that have stopped their cars on highways and gotten out to get, and it's like, have you lost your mind? Don't do that. You're gonna end up killing people. Drive safely, get home, collect the damn Pokemon then, but that's a little much. But aside from that, I think aside from that, really, like aside from people getting out in the middle of highways, but I think that it's a really cool app, and just one of the craziest phenomenons that I've seen probably since the original Pokemon got released. All right, and of course, if you guys know me and you know my channel, there's one topic that you might have thought that I would have come back to, and that's Ghostbusters. No pun intended, but I'm not gonna let this thing die. It's not for the reasons you think either. If you're just tuning into my channel, welcome, thanks, glad you're here. Um, I'm not one of those asswipe guys that's just like, oh, hey, it's because they're women. That's why I don't like it. I have such a huge problem with this movie. Number one, ironically enough, because of the controversy, which you might say, well, Brian, you're adding to the controversy by talking about it now. But the controversy when you see people like James Rolfe that just go online and say, hey, I don't think this movie is what I want to watch. So I'm not going to go watch it, and I'm not even reviewing it at all, and I'm keeping my hands clean of it. And social justice warriors and feminists just all jump out of around every corner and out of every alleyway, and you're a feminist. You're this, you're that, you're prejudiced. It's like, holy shit. It's like all he did was say, hey, I don't think I'm going to like this. I'm not watching it. Is he not allowed to have his opinion? It's not like he said, like, oh, well, they have vaginas, so fuck that. That didn't happen. So, I mean, okay, yeah, you might have had a point. But people imposing their views on other people, that's my major problem with this. And my most major problem with the film, oh boy, how can I even put this into words? If there is just one major problem with it, it's that Paul Feig, or however pronounce your stupid name, took and just cannibalized a franchise that didn't need to be rebooted, didn't need to be remade, didn't need to be touched, and made an entirely new movie and just slapped Ghostbusters on it. And you see this too often lately. RoboCop, even with like The Force Awakens, which was good. Watch my review. You can understand why I have some problems with it later on. Judge Dredd, I can go on and on. Some of them are good. Some of them are awful. Let's not even talk about the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I'm not even going there. Don't get me started. But the point is that at least with stuff like Michael Bay, I can give that a pass a little bit because, you know, they were new movies. He gave them each a new name. He didn't just call it like Transformers, like the animated movie or whatever. Like, it was its own thing. With this, you just took the Ghostbusters movie that was a phenomenon back in 1984 that blew people's minds, and you just use that name and the success it had, and then you just take a big eraser and erase that like it never friggin' happened. And you expect people to swallow this garbage and shit that you put into theaters, and then you dare to, tell people like that they're being feminist or something like Melissa McCarthy. Like, if you ever watch this, and I hope you do, just so you can realize how fucking stupid and ignorant your low-brow, bottom-of-the-barrel, just minuscule IQ demographic of comedic entertainment that you think you have is. She goes around and says, well, most of these people wouldn't know cinema or comedy, if it bit them in the face, and she said most of them are just, basement living trolls that, keyboard warriors now living with their parents or whatever. And you know what, honey? They're not. You got people that have jobs, people that own their own homes or have families. And what they're really pissed off about is that you didn't earn anything in this movie. You put on your ridiculous remakes of Ghostbusters costumes that don't look like the real costumes, proton packs that don't look like the real proton packs, ecto hearse that's just, the fuck is that? And I don't even have a problem with the car, but it's the way it's introduced. You have the terrible comedy of, the power of pain compels you, and it's a Cadillac, and that got in every crack. Oh, vagina butt crack joke. Oh my god, that's so fucking hilarious and original. And it's like you're really almost pandering to people, saying like, "Yep, you're this fucking stupid. You're gonna go to the theater. You're gonna give us your money. You're gonna watch this Ghostbusters, and you're gonna like it because we put it out, and that's all there is to it." And I say no. I say no. The original cast from Saturday Night Live, they had talent. They had comedic timing. They knew how to act. It wasn't just a bunch of comedians trying to one-up each other with shitty Mad TV, skits. It's horrible. It's horrible. You think because you throw Slimer in there, oh, hey, there's Slimer. Oh, there's Bill Murray and them, made an appearance. He's a ghost or whatever. No, fuck you. No. Mm-mm. The first Ghostbusters had heart and soul, and they worked to get their fans. And you can't just make a new movie and not give a nod to that original team and be like, you could have had like, oh, these group of women could have been like, oh, hey, there's, ghosts and stuff. And, and then they go and like find the original Ghostbusters and the firehouse is boarded up and Bill Murray and all them are like, oh, we're too old to do it anymore. And, maybe they pry the wooden beams off the doors and give them their equipment, and they're like, all right, let's go bust some damn ghosts or something. Like that'd be cool. People would accept this new team. But not just because you're fat and stupid and whiny and making stupid women jokes of it going in cracks and stuff like that and wearing wigs. Really? And I mean, what's up with the gear and the costumes? All this steampunk Bioshock bullshit? It's not Ghostbusters. The reason that all that stuff looked like that in the original one is because they were broke. Like, they made the equipment out of what they had. That's the whole reason the Ecto-1 car looks like that to begin with. They didn't have a better car. And it looks ridiculous because it's the best thing they could put together. So, I don't know. I would have had much less of a problem with this film if you'd have just said, like, Ghostbusters a new breed, something. But it's basically, my point that I'm making here is what they did with Ghostbusters is basically if you take the success of anything, let's just say the Ford Mustang, for example. Very successful car. And Ford comes out a number of years later, they make the Pinto. Sucks, right? But instead, they don't call it a Pinto. It's the new Ford Mustang. That's what you did. Ghostbusters 2016 is a Pinto with a Mustang paint job. And everybody can see under the paint chips and the flecks that there's a fucking Pinto under that paint job. And that's why the internet hates that trailer. And that's why the only people that like this movie are critics that are paid by Sony to rate it fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. And that's why all the fans are like, man, this is 51%. That's a failing grade. Remember in school you needed a 65 to pass? No, you didn't pass. Not by the people who pay you. Not by the people who fill those seats. You failed. Because you suck. So, I just hope that Ghostbusters is a shining example for other directors that just want to cash in on remakes. It's like, you know what? Try something fucking new. Stop with the cameos of older actors. Give us new, decent actors that we'll like. Give us a story that we can buy into. That's what Hollywood's about. Don't just regurgitate the same thing over and over again. You know, Ghostbusters fans didn't just want a Ghostbusters 3. We'd have been totally happy with this if you'd have just treated it with respect. So, that's my little 5-minute rant on how I feel about the 2016 release. And I hope that the most fitting fate for this movie is that it just becomes forgotten about. That when you search Ghostbusters, it never even comes up in search history results. It's just like, oh yeah, that was that thing they tried that didn't really work out. But you want to see a good Ghostbusters movie, check out the one from 1984. And I think that's the best that can ever happen to this steaming pile of garbage.
Hey guys, if you liked the video that you just watched, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And if you do the Facebook or Twitter thing, follow me at #KingOfRetro. See you next time.